Captain Nora Blackwood stood at the helm of the UES Prometheus, her weathered hands gripping the command rail as her ship crossed the forbidden boundary of the Vesper Nebula. The massive research vessel's stealth systems hummed quietly, masking their presence from the Galactic Council's border sensors. She knew the consequences of her actions. Crossing into restricted space meant automatic expulsion from the Council and possible military response. But the transmission they'd received from the dying Meridian civilization left no room for bureaucratic delays. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the bridge. First Officer Jun Zhao looked up from his console, dark eyes reflecting the holographic displays surrounding him. Stealth systems holding at 94%. No sign of Council patrol ships. The Meridian signal is getting stronger. We're definitely on the right track. The bridge crew worked in focused silence, each aware of the weight of their mission. The Meridians, an ancient species known for their mastery of quantum mechanics, had broken centuries of isolation to send a desperate plea for help. Their sun was dying far faster than it should have been, and their planetary shield technology was failing. "Captain," called Dr. Vikram Patel from the science station, his fingers dancing across floating holographic controls. "I'm detecting unusual quantum signatures ahead. They don't match any known natural phenomena." Nora nodded grimly. The Meridians were famous for their quantum engineering, but the readings suggested something had gone terribly wrong. "Take us in closer, Helm. Maintain stealth protocols." As the Prometheus glided deeper into the nebula, the massive form of the Meridian homeworld came into view. The planet's surface was covered in crystalline structures that should have been gleaming with stored stellar energy. Instead, they were dark, with only occasional pulses of weak light running through their lattices. "Multiple Council vessels detected on long-range sensors," announced Lieutenant Kara O'Neill, her Irish accent tighter than usual. "3 Arbitrator-class enforcement ships bearing 220 Mark 45. "They're early," Nora muttered. "The Council must have detected something despite their stealth systems. How long until they're in weapons range?" 17 minutes at current speed." Dr. Patel suddenly straightened in his chair. "Captain, I'm detecting a massive quantum cascade building in the planet's core. The Meridian's containment systems are failing." Nora's mind raced through options. The Council ships would demand their immediate withdrawal, citing the ancient laws that kept the Meridians isolated. But if the quantum cascade wasn't stopped, it would tear the planet apart and potentially create a rupture in space-time that could threaten the entire sector. "Open a channel to the surface," she ordered. "All frequencies." The communications officer, Lieutenant Reina Santos, worked her controls. "Channel open." "Meridian Control, this is Captain Nora Blackwood of the Earth Science vessel Prometheus. We've received your distress signal and are here to help. Please respond." For several tense seconds, there was only static. Then a voice responded, its translator struggling to convert the complex quantum harmonics of Meridian speech into standard Galactic. "Prometheus, we are grateful, but you risk much by coming here. The Council." "The Council's laws don't supersede our obligation to help," Nora interrupted. "We've detected the cascade building in your planetary core. Let us help." Another pause, then. "Our quantum containment systems, they are beyond saving. We attempted to harness a new form of energy. We failed. The cascade will destroy everything." Jun leaned closer to Nora, speaking quietly. "Council ships adjusting course. They're pushing their engines to intercept." Nora straightened her uniform, a habit from her decades of service. "Dr. Patel, could we use the Prometheus's quantum dampers to stabilize their core?" The scientist's fingers flew across his displays. "Yes, theoretically, but we'd have to modify them to operate on a planetary scale. The power requirements would be enormous, and there's no guarantee it would work." "Better than watching a civilization die," Nora said. She opened a channel to engineering. "Chief Hassan, I need every bit of power you can give us. We're about to attempt something incredibly stupid and noble." The chief engineer's response was immediate. "Aye, Captain, redirecting power from all non-essential systems. Just like the Mars crisis all over again, eh?" A small smile crossed Nora's face despite the situation. The Prometheus had never failed humanity before. She wouldn't let it fail the Meridians now. Council ships entering weapons range in 10 minutes, Kara reported. Begin quantum damper modifications, Nora ordered, and prepare to broadcast our sensor data and intentions to the Council ships. They need to understand why we're here. As her crew raced against time, Nora watched the dying world before them. The Meridians had chosen isolation centuries ago, pursuing their quantum research in secret. Now that very research threatened to destroy them. Sometimes, she reflected, the greatest acts of diplomacy came not through careful negotiation, but through the simple act of offering help when it was needed most. The Prometheus's engines hummed louder as they prepared for their most daring mission yet. Whether they succeeded or failed, they were about to change the galaxy's understanding of both human determination and Meridian isolation forever. The Council ships dropped out of hyperspace in a brilliant flash of light, their crystalline hulls reflecting the dying star's radiance. Aboard the Prometheus, Lieutenant Santos's console lit up with incoming transmissions. "They're ordering us to withdraw immediately," she reported, her hands steady despite the tension. "Grand Arbiter Zaln is personally commanding the lead vessel." Captain Blackwood's jaw tightened. Zaln was known throughout the galaxy as a hardliner, famous for his unwavering enforcement of Council law. "Put him through main display." The holographic screen flickered to life, revealing the imposing figure of the Grand Arbiter. Zaln's crystalline form pulsed with internal light, his faceted eyes fixed on Nora with cold intelligence. "Captain Blackwood, you have violated Council Directive 359. Withdraw your vessel immediately or face destruction." "Grand Arbiter," Nora responded, keeping her voice level, "we're detecting a quantum cascade in the Meridian planet's core. If we don't act now, the resulting explosion could tear a hole in space-time." "The Meridians chose isolation," Zaln's voice resonated with authority. "Their fate is their own." Dr. Patel interrupted from his station, his voice urgent. "Captain, the quantum readings, they're not random. There's a pattern emerging." Jun moved to the science station, his expression changing as he studied the data. "This isn't a natural phenomenon, the cascade. It's being directed." Nora felt a chill run down her spine. Directed by whom? Before anyone could respond, a new signal cut through their communications. The bridge screens flickered with quantum static before resolving into a new image. A meridian, its crystalline form darker and more angular than any they'd seen in historical records. "You should not have come." The Meridian's voice bypassed their translation systems, resonating directly in their minds. "The experiment must continue." Zaln's image split the screen, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation. "Explain yourself, Meridian. Your people signed the isolation accord willingly." The Meridian's form shifted, patterns of dark energy running through its crystalline body. "We discovered something in the quantum realm, Arbiter, something that changes everything. The old laws no longer apply." Chief Hassan's voice crackled through the bridge comm. "Captain, we've finished modifying the quantum dampers, but something's wrong. The cascade isn't just building, it's being channeled somewhere." Nora watched as new data scrolled across her command display. The quantum energy wasn't chaotic. It was being precisely controlled, directed through the crystalline structures that covered the planet's surface. The Meridians weren't victims of a failed experiment. They were conducting one. "This is why they broke isolation," Jun said quietly. "They wanted us to come." Lieutenant O'Neill's tactical display suddenly blazed with warnings. "Multiple quantum signatures detected. Something's emerging from the planet's surface." They watched in stunned silence as massive crystalline structures rose from the Meridian world, each one pulsing with dark energy. The structures began to align, forming a geometric pattern that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around it. "By the stars," Zaln whispered, his rigid adherence to protocol forgotten in the face of what they were witnessing. "They've built a quantum gate." The dark Meridian's image seemed to grow more intense. "For centuries, we've worked to pierce the quantum veil, to reach what lies beyond normal space. The energy of an entire star system is required for the final step. They're not just draining their sun, Dr. Patel realized, horror creeping into his voice. They're going to collapse the entire system to power whatever they're trying to reach. Nora's mind raced. The Prometheus's quantum dampers might be able to disrupt the Meridian's experiment, but doing so could trigger an immediate collapse of the system. Yet doing nothing meant allowing them to potentially destroy everything in pursuit of their goal. Grand Arbiter, she said, turning to Zaln's image. The Council's laws exist to protect life. Right now, every living thing in this sector is at risk. We need to act together. Zaln was silent for a long moment, his crystalline form shifting through complex patterns. Finally, he spoke. The Council does not have the technology to stop this. But we do, Nora replied. The Prometheus's quantum dampers could disrupt their array. We just need time to calculate the precise frequency. And protection while we work, Jun added. Those structures are generating defensive fields. We'll need the Council ships to help us get close enough. The Dark Meridian's image flared. You cannot stop evolution. What lies beyond will elevate us all, willing or not. Quantum energy arced between the crystalline structures, forming a web of dark lightning that began to tear at the fabric of space itself. In that moment, Nora realized they had stumbled into something far larger than a simple rescue mission. The Meridians hadn't broken isolation to ask for help. They had lured both humanity and the Council here to witness their transcendence. As alarms blared across the Prometheus's bridge, Nora made her decision. Sometimes the hardest part of leadership wasn't choosing between right and wrong, but deciding which wrong would lead to the greater right. All hands, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of her ship. Prepare for emergency quantum insertion. We're going to show the Meridians that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, it's our ability to recognize when to use it and when to stop it. The Prometheus shuddered as another quantum shockwave rippled through space. On the bridge, Captain Blackwood watched as the massive crystalline structures continued their ominous alignment, each pulse of dark energy drawing more power from the dying star. Status of the quantum dampers, she demanded, gripping her command rail as the ship bucked against the gravitational distortions. Chief Hassan's voice crackled through the calm, punctuated by the sound of emergency klaxons. We've synchronized them with the Council ship's shield harmonics. Ready on your command, but, he hesitated. Captain, the power readings we're seeing, they're like nothing in our database. New contact, Lieutenant O'Neill's warning cut through the chaos. Something's emerging from the quantum gate. The main viewscreen shifted, showing a tier in space itself. Through the rift came a vessel of impossible geometry, its surface a writhing mass of crystalline tentacles and dark energy. It moved with an alien grace that defied physics, leaving trails of quantum distortion in its wake. By the void, Grand Arbiter Zaln's voice wavered. That design, it matches the ancient warnings. The precursor archives spoke of them. The Dark Meridian's image reappeared, its form now pulsing with an inner darkness that seemed to drink in the light. Yes, Arbiter, the Quantum Collective, those who transcended physical form eons ago, we have called them back. Dr. Patel's hands flew across his console. Captain, the quantum signatures are changing. That ship, it's not just moving through space, it's rewriting it. Multiple new signatures detected, O'Neill reported. They're coming through the rift. More impossible ships emerged, each one a nightmare of non-Euclidean geometry. As they moved into formation around the quantum gate, the very stars seemed to dim in their presence. Jun moved to Nora's side, his voice low. The Meridians didn't just build a gate, they built a bridge for an invasion. The Dark Meridian's form expanded, filling the viewscreen. Not an invasion, humans, salvation. The collective will free us all from the prison of physical form. The transmission cut off as a beam of pure darkness lanced from the lead precursor vessel, striking the Meridian world. Where it touched, matter simply ceased, not destroyed, but transformed into something that human eyes couldn't process. They're not saving anyone, Nora realized. They're harvesting them. Aboard the Council flagship, Zaln's crystalline form pulsed with ancient protocols awakening. The archives warned us. The collective doesn't elevate species, it consumes them, transforms them into extensions of itself. That's why the Meridians were quarantined. They found something they were never meant to find. Commander Zhao's tactical display lit up with new alerts. The collective vessels are spreading out. They're not just targeting the Meridian world, they're moving to secure the entire system. Nora felt the weight of centuries pressing down on her. The Meridians, in their arrogance, had breached a barrier put in place to protect the galaxy. Now everyone would pay the price unless they could find a way to stop it. "Dr. Patel," she called, "could we use the quantum dampers to disrupt the gate?" The scientist's fingers danced across his displays. "Yes, but—" "Captain, the readings suggest the gate is becoming self-sustaining. Even if we close it, the collective ships already here would remain." "Then we change the plan," Nora decided. She opened a channel to the Council ships. "Grand Arbiter, your archives, did they mention any weaknesses?" Zaln's response was immediate. The precursors fought the collective before ascending. They found that quantum resonance could disrupt their form, but the power required. "We have a dying star," Jun interrupted, understanding dawning in his eyes, "and the Meridian's energy collection array." Chief Hassan's voice joined the discussion. "If we could reprogram their crystals, use them to channel the star's energy through our quantum dampers, we'd create a resonance wave that could disrupt the collective's quantum coherence," Patel finished. "But Captain, the power backlash would destroy everything in the system, including us." Lieutenant Santos straightened at her communications station. "Incoming transmission from the collective vessels. They're singing." A sound filled the bridge, beautiful and terrible. It bypassed their ears, reaching directly into their minds with promises of transcendence, of evolution beyond physical form. Several crew members swayed, their eyes glazing over. "Shut it off," Nora commanded, and the sound cut out. But she'd felt it, the seductive pull of transformation, the promise of becoming something greater. She understood now why the Meridians had fallen to temptation. "We don't have much time," Zaln warned. "The collective's influence spreads quickly once it takes hold." Nora looked at her crew, at the Council ships holding position alongside the Prometheus, at the dying star that might be their only salvation. Sometimes, she reflected, the most human thing you could do was reject transcendence in favor of remaining exactly what you were. "Begin quantum damper modifications," she ordered, "and signal the Council ships. We're going to remind these beings why some barriers should remain unbroken." Time seemed to crystallize as the Prometheus, and the Council ships moved into formation around the dying star. The quantum collective's vessels hung in space like tears in reality, their crystalline tentacles weaving patterns that hurt to look at. "Meridian energy array at 60% alignment," Dr. Patel reported, his voice tense. "The crystals are fighting the reprogramming, but they're adapting to our algorithms." Captain Blackwood studied the tactical display, where red dots marked the spreading influence of the collective. Already, portions of the Meridian world had transformed into something that sensors couldn't properly register, regions of space where physics itself seemed optional. "More ships emerging from the rift," Lieutenant O'Neill announced. 7 new contacts. They're larger than the others." The bridge crew watched as massive shapes emerged from the quantum gate, each one a cathedral of impossible geometry. Where the smaller ships had been unsettling, these new arrivals radiated a presence that made reality itself shudder. "Processing ships," Grand Arbiter Zaln's voice carried a weight of ancient knowledge. "They transform captured beings into extensions of the collective, once that process begins." A new transmission cut through their communications, but this time it wasn't the seductive song of transcendence. Instead, they heard screams, the death cries of Meridians being transformed, their crystalline forms shattering and reforming into something else. "Energy array at 75%, Patel called out. "But Captain, the star is becoming unstable. The collective's presence is accelerating its decay." Commander Zhao moved to Nora's side, his expression grim. "Even if we succeed, the star will go supernova. The blast wave will destroy everything in the system, including the quantum gate, Nora nodded, and hopefully any collective ships on this side of it. Chief Hassan's voice crackled through the comm. Captain, we've finished modifying the quantum dampers, but there's a problem, the focusing array. Someone will need to manually calibrate it when we fire. The automation can't handle the quantum fluctuations. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Manual calibration meant certain death for whoever took on the task. The quantum energies would tear them apart at the molecular level. I'll do it, Jun stepped forward, but Nora raised a hand to stop him. No, the crew will need you if... She left the sentence unfinished. This is my responsibility. Before anyone could object, new alarms blared. On the main screen, they watched as one of the council ships suddenly went dark, its crystalline hull turning black as night. When it reactivated, its energy signature had changed. They've taken the arbitrator, O'Neill reported. It's turning to engage us. The corrupted council ship opened fire, its weapons now shooting beams of pure darkness that seemed to erase whatever they touched. The remaining council vessels scattered, their formation breaking. Meridian array at 85%, Patel's voice was strained. But the corruption is spreading through the system. We're seeing quantum anomalies forming throughout local space. Zaln's image appeared on the bridge screen, his crystalline form pulsing with urgency. Captain Blackwood, we cannot hold them much longer. The collective's influence, it calls to something deep within our crystalline nature. Even our strongest minds are struggling to resist. Nora watched as another council ship began to show signs of corruption, its hull darkening in patches. They were running out of time. The collective wasn't just destroying this system, it was converting it, ship by ship, molecule by molecule, into something that didn't belong in their universe. Lieutenant Santos, she called, send our quantum damper calculations to the remaining council ships. Have them synchronize their shield harmonics with ours. She turned to her crew, these people who had followed her into what might be their last mission. We get one shot at this. When we fire the dampers, the energy wave will either disrupt the collective's quantum coherence or tear the system apart at the subatomic level, Patel finished quietly. The deck shuddered as the corrupted council ship's weapons found their mark. Shield warnings blared across multiple stations. Shields at 60%, O'Neill reported. We can't take many more hits like that. Array at 90%, Patel called out. The star's core is beginning to collapse if we're going to do this. Nora straightened her uniform one last time. Commander Zhao, you have the con. Get our people clear of the blast radius the moment we fire. She turned to the exit, then paused. It's been an honor serving with all of you. As she headed for the turbolift, Jun's voice stopped her. Captain, Nora, the archives mention something else about the collective. They don't just corrupt matter, they corrupt time. Whatever you're about to face in that calibration chamber, it won't be quick. Nora managed a small smile. Then I'll have time to get it right. She stepped into the lift, her voice carrying back to the bridge. Humanity didn't get this far by fearing the unknown. We got here by facing it head-on. The lift doors closed, carrying her toward her final duty, as the battle for reality itself raged around the dying star. The calibration chamber hummed with deadly energy as Captain Nora Blackwood worked at the controls. Through the reinforced viewport, she could see the dying star, its surface writhing with dark tendrils of collective influence. The quantum dampers thrummed beneath her feet, building to powers never before attempted by human technology. Status report, she called over the comm, her fingers dancing across the calibration matrix. Array at 95%, Dr. Patel's voice came through, strained but steady. The collective ships are moving to surround us. They know what we're trying to do. The chamber's sensors showed the battle raging outside. The remaining council ships fought desperately against their corrupted brethren, while the Prometheus held position near the star's corona. The massive processing ships had moved closer, their impossible geometries casting shadows that shouldn't exist. Captain, Grand Arbiter Zaln's transmission cut through the static. The archives spoke of another option. If we surrender to the collective willingly, they sometimes preserve aspects of No, Nora interrupted, adjusting another set of quantum harmonics. We don't survive by becoming something else. We survive by remembering who we are. A new voice filled the chamber, the dark meridian, its tone now twisted by collective influence. Your species fears evolution, Captain. You cling to your limited form when infinity beckons. Even now, as your cells begin to decay from the quantum radiation, you resist transcendence. Nora glanced at her hands, seeing the first signs of quantum corruption spreading across her skin in fractal patterns. The radiation was working faster than expected. We've evolved plenty, she replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. We evolved from tribes to nations, from Earth to the stars, but we did it on our terms. Array at 98%, Patel reported. But Captain, the star's collapse is accelerating. The collective's influence is destabilizing its core. Commander Zhao's voice joined in. Council ships reporting critical damage. We can't hold them back much longer. Through the viewport, Nora watched as another Council ship succumbed to corruption, its crystalline hull turning to darkness. The collective's vessels pressed closer, their tentacles reaching toward the Prometheus like hungry shadows. Tell me something, Jun, she said, making another adjustment as pain lanced through her transforming body. Was I right, coming here to help the Meridians? There was a pause before he answered. You were right to try. That's what makes us human, we try, even when the odds are impossible. The chamber's warnings blared as the quantum energies reached critical levels. On her displays, Nora could see the star's core beginning to implode. The collective ships were moving to intercept, but they didn't understand what humanity had learned over centuries of facing extinction. Sometimes victory meant ensuring your enemy lost everything too. Array at full power, Patel announced. Ready on your mark. Nora looked at her reflection in the viewport. The quantum corruption had spread across half her face, turning her flesh into something crystalline and dark. But her eyes, they remained human, filled with determination and purpose. Commander, she called, her voice growing stronger despite the pain, get our people clear, and make sure the galaxy knows. We didn't just die here, we chose to remain human. She began the final calibration sequence, even as reality itself seemed to warp around her. The collective's influence pressed against her mind, offering visions of eternal existence, of power beyond comprehension. But with each offer came images of what that existence meant: endless consumption, the destruction of everything that made life worth living. We're not ready for transcendence, she whispered, more to herself than the collective. Maybe someday humanity will be, but we'll find our own path there. With a final surge of effort, she locked in the calibration. Now, Dr. Patel, fire the dampers. Energy erupted from the Prometheus and the remaining Council ships, their combined quantum dampers channeling the power of the dying star. The beam struck the nearest collective vessel, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to scream. The collective ship's impossible geometry began to unravel, its form collapsing into patterns that could exist in normal space. The effect spread like a wave, catching other collective vessels in its path. The quantum gate vibrated, its structure destabilizing as the very forces it had been designed to harness turned against it. In the calibration chamber, Nora felt her transformed flesh beginning to burn away. But she held her position, keeping the quantum harmonics aligned as the star entered its final collapse. Through the pain, through the collective's last desperate attempts to seduce her mind, she thought of Earth, of humanity's long journey to the stars. They had come so far, learned so much, but never lost what made them human, the ability to choose their own destiny. The star's core imploded, and with it came a wave of pure energy, focused through the quantum dampers into a beam of cleansing light. The collective ships caught in its path didn't just die. They were erased from reality itself, their impossible existence canceled out by the power of a dying sun. As darkness crept into her vision, Nora saw the quantum gate collapse, taking with it any hope of the collective's return. The corrupted ships began to dissolve, their unnatural forms unable to exist without their master's influence. In her final moments, she smiled, knowing that humanity had once again faced the impossible and remained true to itself. The Prometheus and the surviving council ships rode the shockwave out of the system, carrying with them a truth that would change the galaxy. Transcendence meant nothing without the wisdom to know when to remain exactly what you were. In the centuries that followed, the story of the Prometheus and its crew became legend. Not because they had achieved evolutionary transcendence, but because they had chosen to remain human in the face of infinite temptation. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its ability to change, but in its ability to recognize the value of what it already was.